5 months and 11 days and as many hours that I stood stationed in this familiar position. 5 months and 11 days and as many hours ago when I first entered the department store looking for money to buy biscuits for myself and anybody else who would care to join. The man I met in the very big shop sat me down and asked me why I wanted the job. I told him, I need biscuits, I am hungry. I told him this inside my head as I'm telling you this. The real words and my gob words were different words. The gob word said, I am genuinely emotionally committed to loving your department store, and I am disturbingly passionate about devoting my life to working in it. To say it is a long-held dream of mine would be as cruel to the use of metaphor as burning a simpleton on a bonfire. I love department stores and would adore to be a professional, highly skilled, temporary sales associate with expert knowledge in the valuable task of a customer-facing role. The suited man, better than me, the decider of my fate. He looked at me and pressed an intimidating big red button in front of him. Speaking into the button, he pronounced, Allison, please send them in. The man looked up at me as the others came in. Their faces were dull, yet stylish and knowing. 12, all in all. They all wore suits too, ranging in colour from dark blue to a slightly less darker blue, even the 3 girl ones. The only separating feature of any of them were their haircuts. Some had shorter and more whispering than others with different coloured dyes in their hair. What do you think? Said the man, pointing directly at me. Is this a good one? The others stared at me with a glare. Their eyes moved in unison as did their breaths. I felt like I could hear their brains. I burned with intimidation like a lamb being inspected and judged on the quality of his fluff at a county show by a group of professional bumpkins. My nerves shook. He's not right, the others responded whilst shaking their heads slowly. He's not right at all, they all said. The others whispered to the man something in his ears, but this was a loud whisper, performed more like a shout, so I heard all of it. Can you tell it to be less ugly? They bellowed into the man's ear. The man turned to me. Can you be less ugly, please? We really need a less ugly person for the position of seasonal sales associate. I felt my eyes go heavy as I always do when someone calls me ugly. I paused for 1 moment, and then another 1 moment, and then another 1 moment. Eventually, 4 long moments had passed, and I formulated my response. No, I can't be less ugly. I've already tried and I can't do it. I'm a failure at being less ugly. I am sorry. I got up to leave the horrifying room of tortured interrogation. The man ran in front of the door to stop me from exiting. Wait! He shouted. I did as commanded. I felt powerless to fight back after being called ugly by 13 more important people. Rejection is never easy. Mass rejection is always even less easier than that. He's perfect. His ugliness is exactly what we need right now. You can stay after all. I have decided we have something that is perfect for you, the man told me in all his authority. The man looked at the others with wisdom in his eyebrows. He's too ugly to be a sales associate, but he's not too ugly to be the world's first promotional ugly Jesus Christ mass. The others looked back at him knowingly, as if they had just borne witness to brilliant thinking. This is perfect and brilliant and genius, all in equal measure, the others all said in excitement. We can put him in the display window at the front of the shop. He'll lead this year's Christmas display. Just imagine the publicity. At last, a real-life Jesus upgraded for the technology age. All real life, and it'll be all in yo face, motherfuckers. They all spoke excitedly at each other. We'll be applauded as being brave and daring. An ugly Jesus human mannequin standing in our window for Christmas, the man in charge said, whilst receiving oral sex from Allison, the receptionist. We'll be the toast of the public relations industry for years to come for this. I can taste the award show champagne already, the filleted boss said, as he spun tiny little goo coins onto the face of Allison. while one of the others stood to mount and pump away at her free end. Alison looked up at me with a quiet, yet inhuman smirk. "This is what we do here. This is what brilliant people do in offices all day," she said to me as she took another steamy load on her face and glasses, whilst being dumbled up the duff by another suited other. They all celebrated with each other. I looked around as I left and saw a tear in her eye. Or maybe it was just veins. It's hard to say. Alison lay splayed-legged on the conference table in the middle of the room, as a Christmas cracker was inserted inside her. The others all pulled at the end not inside her body to see who would win. I looked around as I left and saw a tear in her eyes. Or maybe it was just veins. It's hard to say. Still to this day, I've no idea who won that competition. Although, as the boss led me away from the office, the closed door behind me did voice a loud pop, and then a bang, as if 12 whole people had just fallen into it, leading me to believe that she was the victor of the contest. I had to stand in the store's window ever since, illuminated by beams of obnoxious lights all day, slowly being mildly cooked by them. Displayed like a right cunt, dressed entirely as Jesus Christ, wearing an Armani tracksuit and 17 diamond-encrusted Gucci watches. My hands are fixed and nailed to a cross made of 703 brand new iPhones. The nails weren't painful though, as I received injections of cocaine into my veins every 2 hours to numb the pain. I made sure this was part of my contract. My cross stuck out from inside a specially made Lamborghini car. They called this spectacular model the Saviour. The body was made of gold plates and adorned wheels dangled myrrh. Lazily, there was no frankincense. The designers had decided that nobody cared about that last one anyway. I also had a wig of long hair, donated by the former singing man Sir Paul McCartney. The wig lovingly covered my short, ugly hair. Nobody was to know who the hair actually belonged to, for fear that it might turn me into a beautiful Jesus, and thus kill our entire publicity stunt. It was our little secret. Every now and then, my blood would stop trickling as I wasn't moving, so the boss asked children to come and tickle me to stimulate my blood flow again. It always worked. After a few weeks, a television camera crew arrived to make a short news piece about me, the soon-to-be world-renowned first-ever ugly department store window Jesus mannequin. Hundreds gathered to watch me. The crew told the boss that he was brilliant, the whole gimmick was simply brilliant, and that somehow the department store had really managed to update the whole suffering on a cross thing. The boss told the TV man, while being recorded for an interview, that the whole thing was about the spirit of Christmas, and that's all about reminding people that Jesus died for their sins. The boss then pointed to my Lamborghini and declared, "That's what it's all about." "These," the man said, "these great things are what Jesus died for. Ugly Jesus is here to remind all our customers of that simple and often forgotten fact." The TV newsman nodded in knowing agreement, and then the whole thing became facts. The ugliness, he explained, was just a gimmick to get people speaking about it all. He added quietly in the newsman's ear, "But don't tell anybody that, or we'll sue you." They laughed and went to get drunk. The crowd quickly died down and departed. I stayed hanging. This was, after all, my new home until Christmas Day, 5 months and 11 days from now. Crowds died down shortly after this, and soon after that they stopped noticing me entirely. They were too busy shopping and walking along Oxford Street to even glance at the world-renowned ugly Jesus in a department store window. As the interest declined, the boss demanded that I do more and more gimmicks. One day he placed a microphone in my hands and made me bellow a rap version of "I wish it could be Christmas every day." This turned the public apathy into even greater disdain. I never left the shop window. I am displayed all night long for this humiliation and degradation. Although I am free to leave, I decide to stay. The shop lights do keep me warm, and I haven't paid my rent in months, so assume I no longer have a house to go back to anyway. Soon I would be joining the tramps outside, I thought. The money I've made from this job is literally just enough to buy biscuits alone. I had not accounted for anything else in my hubris and slim-sightedness. Every day I smugly watched them in the freezing cold from the comfort of my cross. My arms now fully numbered for what is no doubt the rest of my adult life. In my bored state, I watched the tramps die. I'm sorry to say this is really my only entertainment, stranded as I am. Each time one dies, a council van drives by, and 2 government employees would replace the dead tramp with a new one. This was part of an ongoing and much publicised government programme to make everybody who isn't homeless feel grateful for what they have, and to scare the shit out of the public by reminding them that they could be thrown into trampdom unless they complied fully with the demands of the state. This programme appeared to be quite effective. Certainly it was entertaining. One of the tramps was an industrial and entrepreneurial sort of character. He passed frequently, every single day, shirtlessly, wearing a ragged and tattered Santa hat only, dragged along the ground by about 40 powerful fat rats who all had little antlers poorly welded to their ears. One of the rats had a red nose on his face bit. Whether or not this was some sort of novelty-sized rat nose or a medically worrying tumour, I honestly cannot tell you. Sometimes Santa Tramp was unconscious as he was dragged along the ground by his rats, but mostly he just shouted at the children to hand him money, threatening them. "Give me your money, children, or you'll fuck Santa off," was one of his favourite and most oftenly used lines, along with deranged laughing. "Ah ha ha ha!" The children laughed and giggled as much as they paid him. They laughed and giggled often then. These things distracted me only temporarily, mainly they didn't at all. I was almost always focused on the noises they allegedly call music. The shop rampantly blasted the obnoxious and repetitive noises of hell songs of hell at me all day long. These songs, with the most rancid of words repeated many times over, endlessly. I felt as if I was a sort of brown jihadi one being tortured into confession at Guantanamo Bay, but deprived of the privilege of mass arse rape by an American soldier. I wish it could be Christmas every day. The rap version I had sung for hours and days now, recorded by my boss and blasted back at me through the store's powerful speakers. It is now the constant theme for my never-ceasing long march into death. Through the sheer pain of it all, I passed into a coma whilst vomiting, being tickled by a small child. I hit them in the face. It was that dry yet slightly chunky vomit, you know, that kind. I had that kind of vomit as I was fed only on sausage rolls by the staff. I pled with them to feed me other things, but they didn't and wouldn't. I was too in a coma to apologise to the poor child. They left covered in vomit. I awoke what must have been hours later and glanced up at the countdown clock that had been installed in front of the shop. Counting down the days to Christmas, 72 hours to go, then I would be free. The plan: collect my 5 months and 11 days worth of earnings and make for freedom. I could almost taste my freedom now. The customers increased in velocity along the high street, many now stampeding into the shop in a state of blind fury. They hadn't come to see me, of course. All they cared about was shopping stuff. The clever ones had brought along their own bodyguards. The shop was now filled with cage fighters and ex-army veterans, all hired out for the day by customers desperate to buy the things you need to buy to make people think you give a fuck about them. It was magical as much as it was brutal. One well-to-do woman had her bodyguard shoot a competing customer with an air rifle, right in the nose. The shop rewarded her for this noble act with a coupon that she could redeem at her local petrol station. Another well-to-do woman left the shop with her arms full of bags and a young child in tow. Both looked exceptionally happy because they had lots and lots of stuff. They had done a great job of Christmas, they thought. The woman was then stopped in her tracks by digital ringing. She pulled out the speaking rectangle of technology and looked slightly flustered. "Yes, I've got the money," she said angrily. "Yes, you'll get it back straight after Christmas, of course." She carried on. Just a few more days. No, what do you mean you're going to sell it anyway? You can't, I need it. The woman then went quiet for a bit, until her fury was sparked as indicated by shoutings. No! You can't just sell my vagina. No! I don't care if you're a pawn shop and I signed a legally binding contract. You can't just sell it. I've got the money, I swear. She paused in thinking for a few seconds before resuming. Okay, how about I give you half my liver as well, just to tide me over till I can buy back my wetted clam hole. The woman's daughter now looked at her all sad and fondled her mother's bloated shopping bags for comfort. Her mother slammed the phone closed. Are you okay, Mummy? Are we still having Christmas? Do we have to take the presents back? The little girl asked on the verge of tears. The mother responded, Maybe, darling, but I still love you. The little girl then burst into a fit of ear-piercing infantile rage. Mother acted to reassure her, and then the phone went again. Mother took the call. What? I just told you no. Not till after Christmas. No. You can't sell it. What do you mean? Do I have anything else to offer? You've already got my vagina. You don't want a liver? What? Woman stopped mid-sentence as her thoughts emerged clearly now. She looked down at her crying daughter, kneeling to meet her with a loving tone, making direct eye contact. You know how we're all really looking forward to Christmas, Rebecca? And you really, really want Jack to get all his presents? And how you really, really, really want to get your makeup set too? The mum demanded. The little girl nodded in agreement. Well, we can have the best Christmas ever. That's what you want, isn't it? The little girl nodded again in tepid agreement and stopped crying. Well, in life nothing is free, Rebecca, and that's just life. If you want all those things and everybody to be happy, then you'll have to come and meet my friend and play dress up with him. You'd like that, wouldn't you? To help pay for the best Christmas ever. The little girl nodded in agreement, smiling now. Her tears long since vanished. The mother spoke into the phone. Don't worry, you'll get your payment before Christmas, you nasty blood shark. We're coming now. She spoke with an angry sigh of relief before slamming down the end call button. The mother then kissed her daughter on the forehead. Come on, Becca, you can try your Christmas present early. On the way! The mother spoke as she daubed costly paint onto her child's uncomfortable face. As I watched the two go into the distance, the boss accosted my face. Alan, here is your biscuits. You can go now. We don't need you anymore. Christmas is over now. Please leave, he said at me angrily. We made more money this year than last year, and that's all that matters. You, though, and your stupid, ugly Jesus PR stunt have failed. And for that, I'm withholding most of your biscuits. He pulled out the nails from my wrist and ankle slowly, but firmly injecting more than enough cocaine to ease my pain. I fell to the ground and was stripped naked of all the designer goods, except for my pants. The McCartney wig, I was told, had to be returned. My head was cold from then on. After a few minutes of gathering energy and crying from it all, I fled the department store. My arms still outstretched and affixed as if I was still on an invisible cross. I fear they will never come down again. I hit some old people in the head with my arms along Oxford Street as I dashed away from all the horror, but I didn't care now. I ran into a nearby alley, and my affixed arms tossed biscuits into the air, while I attempted, somewhat successfully, to catch them in my mouth, then chewed down harshly. A voice asked me if I could spare some for her. I looked over and saw that it was Alison, the receptionist from the department store. I asked her why she was living in a box now. She told me that she'd always lived in a box on the street. I thought you worked as a receptionist for the department store, I said out of interest. I'm doing an unpaid 4-year-long internship in answering big red buttons, she responded. I haven't been paid a penny, but this is just what you have to do if you want a career in answering big red buttons for a living, she said, shivering in her box. It's Christmas Day now, I replied. I know. I'm really hungry. Can I please have some of your biscuit? She said back. My rigidly stiff arm pushed a portion of biscuit in her mouth. We said Merry Christmas to each other. She told me that she'd never thought I was ugly at all as she chewed on the biscuit. The exhaustion of being crucified and freezing cold for 5 months now overtaking me. As I fell into unconsciousness, I said to myself, this was the best Christmas I'd ever had. Alison looked as if she agreed. And we said Merry Christmas to each other. And we said Merry Christmas to each other. And we said Merry Christmas to each other. And we said Merry Christmas